So we have our group. So then we come down to priest, and the priests are ordained by bishops, and there are two types. You have diocesan priest, and you have religious priest. So Father Freddie and Father Randy would be considered a diocesan priest. They belong to the Diocese of Owensboro. Sometimes you'll have a priest that will come in like, you may have heard the term Fathers of Mercy. They're their own religious order, and their role is more of a role of mission, to go out in other areas of the world and to have a missionary base. The diocesan priests preside over a certain area. Not to say that they can't go somewhere else. You can be lent somewhere else, right? In time. So
with permission.
With permission, yeah. It's all about permission, the bishop. And the priests are very obedient to the bishop. So when the bishop asks them to do something, they're obedient to the bishop, because he should have their best interest in mind as he's making these appointments as well. We hope, right? Let's see. The pastor is our parish leader, so just as like Father Randy is the pastor of St. Agnes, Father Freddie is the pastor of St. Anne's. And then you get into some other terms like some churches have what's called an associate pastor. At one time, we had two priests at St. Anne's, so you had your regular pastor and then you had your associate pastor. If you ever go to Mass at Holy Name, have lots of priests up there. The pastor of Holy Name is actually Father Larry McBride. And then he has two associate pastors, which is Father Shaughness and oh my gracious, little guy.
Father Maury Ronnie.
Maury Ronnie. My mind's in a fog tonight, Father Maury Ronnie. So your priest can ask to have an associate pastor if they need assistance. The bishop might grant them one. He might not say, he may say, no, you just can do it on yourself. And kind of go from there. We have a priest shortage, so sometimes it's difficult to have more than one priest. And you have many priests that have more than one parish, such as Father Dave out at Waverly. That's why he has two parishes. He has St. Peter's and also Sacred Heart. Father Ryan, because he's nice and young, he gets three parishes. He goes to St. Ambrose and St. Francis and St. Williams. It's not because he's young, they can still send his father out there and he's old, you know. Jesus. We can try to say.
I don't think she's trying. Yeah, she said it pretty close.
But they try to place them where they need to be, and that's a prayerful decision. You know, but they don't do that lightly when they go to place a priest in a certain position. So then they have a thing that's called, you may have heard the term, an episcopal, a parochial vicar. My term's right. A parochial vicar. So you can have more than one title. Father Randy, while he is the priest or the pastor of St. Agnes, he's also the parochial vicar of John Paul II School. So one of his duties is to oversee John Paul II School. And that's
Episcopal vicar.
Oh, Episcopal?
Parochial vicar,
Parochial
same
vicar
thing
is
as an
an
associate pastor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Episcopal vicar. I think, did I have you sign things wrong, or did I have that right?
You had Episcopal vicar.
I
You
had
just
right.
said it wrong.
Gosh.
You were doing it right. You just said it wrong.
Lord have mercy. Because Father Freddie was at one time over at the school, and now it's Father Randy. So that role can change also. Okay. And then, let's see here. You can have someone that's called a Monsignor. A Monsignor is a title given to a priest based on their lifelong contributions to the church. So the only Monsignor that I'm familiar with is Monsignor Powers. You've heard of
We had Raymond, Father Hilly was a Monsignor, wasn't he?
Father Higgins was.
Yes.
I mean,
Father
yeah,
Higgins.
Father Higgins. Now,
No. George Hancock.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Since Francis, they discontinued that.
Oh, really? I'm going to write that down because I won't remember that. Well, I laughed when I went out and was looking at this lineage of popes. I went to the Vatican site and it stopped with John Paul, and I'm going, John Paul? So it hadn't been updated. So then I was like going out and I was going to Wikipedia and all these funky sites and I don't have faith in it. I finally found one that I trusted that had at least Pope Francis on the list.
Didn't even have Benedict? Wow.
It was not good. So
They're behind time.
who knows? And I may have been the wrong
They had
language
a pope that
too.
lasted like a month. I remember when in school.
John Paul I, yeah.
Going in school and waiting because we're going to get a new pope, and then it was like right after that, because Mom said she'd only been through pope elections a few times,
In her lifetime.
and then all of a sudden,
30 days.
yeah, he was gone and started all over again, and I think it took them longer the second time to find somebody, didn't it? Or was it took so long on that one,
I don't
maybe?
remember now.
It just seemed like it took forever on one of the elections to find one.
So then, so we have our priest, and then we kind of get into deacons. There's a couple of different kinds of deacons. These are basically ordained members of the clergy. They're not priests. They can be transitional deacons, which basically means that they're going to hopefully one day be a priest. So right before they become a priest, they're a deacon. And then that last year, they'll go back to school and then they become a priest. So that would be a transitional deacon. And then we have what's called permanent diaconate, I think they call them. I call them permanent deacons. And those are men that they can be married at the time that they enter the deaconate, or they can elect to stay single. They're not going to become a priest. They're going to serve in that capacity. And basically, they can marry people, and they can preach the gospel, the homily. They can baptize. The things they can't do are consecration. They can't actually celebrate Mass as far as doing the consecration.
Your confessions.
They can't hear confessions, thank you.
Or anoint the sick.
And anoint the sick. So there's three things. I missed anoint the sick. I thought they could do that. Good.
They could do that.
Okay, so they can't consecrate the
Can't
Eucharist.
celebrate Mass.
Or celebrate Mass. They can't hear confession, and they can't anoint the sick. But they can do everything else that a priest can do. And right now, we don't have any in our churches here in the county. Henderson has 3, I believe, right
Was
now.
it Richard Biven? Is that
Yeah,
his
Richard
name?
Niven is a
He's one of
deacon.
them at
And
Henderson.
you can tell the difference if they're up there because, like normally a priest will have a stole and it comes down on both sides, crossover. A deaconate has a little sash that comes over. Is it called a stole and it's just
Called a
worn
stole.
sideways?
Crosses the heart.
Stole. And it matches the color, just like the priest wear. We talked about the colors last week that are in there. Okay, then you have what are called brothers and sisters. And these guys take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. You have women that are in this group, and you have some that live in what's called a cloistered order. So basically, they all live as a big group, and they do things for the good of the group. It's kind of like the sisters in Ferdinand, Indiana. They live in a cloistered community. And then you have sisters that live outside of those cloistered communities, and that would be someone like Sister Alicia. If you've seen Sister Alicia, she's a Ursuline. She's Ursuline. So they don't live as a group of community. They go out within the parishes and work within the parishes. But they all still have that same vow. They must take the vow of poverty, chastity, and obedience.
Now, some of them, when they come, that are supposed to live in cloisters, if they come in pairs, they can live outside, or is that?
That
If
used to
they're
be
truly
old school. Is that
cloistered, they
still?
don't get out.
Do it.
The Passion, like the Passionist nuns in Davis County, you won't see them out.
Depends on the order. Some are more
More
fully
strict than
cloistered,
others.
yeah, than others.
Sometimes the cloister is just in the living space itself, but other times they live in the cloister.
I had a aunt who was in Louisville, but anytime she came to grandmother's house, she had to have a nun.
Yeah, they used to have it done by pairs,
Yeah.
but that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Well, and they used to all be in habits, so they always had their habits. And now they might show up and be in just a skirt and shirt.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know they're a nun. Kind of like our priests do. You guys are all